What if I told you that during World War II, German submarines were sinking ships so close to America that civilians could watch the explosions from the beach? What if I told you that Nazi agents actually landed on U.S. soil, carrying explosives, blueprints of American factories, and orders to cripple the economy from the inside? And what if I told you that the invasion of America wasn't supposed to come with tanks and soldiers, but through sabotage, fear, propaganda, and the slow strangling of an entire nation? Because despite what movies and alternate history shows suggest, the real story is far stranger and far more unsettling. This is the story of how Nazi Germany planned to reach America, why it failed, and why for a brief moment in history, the United States was closer to the front lines than it ever realized. Nazi Germany never had a realistic plan to send armies marching down Pennsylvania Avenue. No panzers, no mass landings on New York beaches. And yet, Hitler was obsessed with America. In the 1920s, long before the war, Adolf Hitler openly admired the United States not as a democracy, but as an empire. He studied America's westward expansion, the displacement of Native Americans, the way land was taken, cleared, and racially reorganized. To him, America wasn't a warning, it was a blueprint. But by the early 1940s, admiration turned to contempt. Hitler began calling the United States a decayed nation, a country he believed was too racially divided to survive a real war. And that belief led him to a catastrophic miscalculation, because while Hitler underestimated American unity, he feared American industry. Factories, shipyards, endless production. If Germany couldn't invade America physically, then the next best option was to break it economically. In early 1942, just weeks after the U.S. entered World War II, German U-boats launched Operation Drumbeat. Submarines slipped across the Atlantic not to fight the U.S. Navy, but to hunt merchant ships. The American coastline was unprepared. No blackouts, no convoy systems, cities glowing at night. German commanders later said the East Coast looked lit up like Christmas trees. Oil tankers burned off Florida. Cargo ships exploded near New York. Over 600 vessels were sunk in American waters in just a few months. This wasn't an invasion, but it was something just as dangerous, because America's lifeline, trade, fuel, weapons, was being cut right in front of its eyes. And while submarines attacked from offshore, another threat arrived on the beaches themselves. In June 1942, under the cover of darkness, German agents landed on Long Island, New York. Not soldiers, not commandos, 8 men dressed as civilians carrying explosives and cash. Their mission? Destroy aluminum plants, sabotage railroads, blow up power stations, targets that fed America's war machine. They were part of Operation Pastorius, a secret Nazi sabotage plan. And here's the twist. These men weren't elite spies. They were waiters, mechanics, factory workers, people who had once lived in America and were supposed to blend back in unnoticed. But the plan collapsed almost immediately. The leader of the group panicked. Within days, he walked into an FBI office and confessed everything. The saboteurs were arrested. 6 were executed. The plan became one of the greatest intelligence failures in Nazi history. But the idea behind it, that America could be attacked from within, never fully disappeared. As the war dragged on, Germany's plans became desperate. Engineers worked on the America bomber, a plane that could, in theory, fly from Europe to New York. Others dreamed of V-2 rockets launched from submarines aimed at American cities. None of it worked. The technology was unreliable, the logistics impossible, and the Atlantic, vast, hostile, and unforgiving, remained undefeated. Ironically, one of the most effective invasion tools wasn't German at all. In 1941, President Roosevelt revealed a secret Nazi map showing plans to carve South America into German-controlled states. It terrified Americans. Later, historians would learn the truth. The map was a forgery, British propaganda designed to push the U.S. fully into the war. But fear didn't care whether it was real.
The idea that the enemy could reach the Western Hemisphere changed everything. And then there's the most uncomfortable part of this story. Nazi Germany didn't just study America militarily, it studied it legally. When drafting the Nuremberg race laws, Nazi lawyers examined American segregation laws, Jim Crow statutes, anti-miscegenation laws, racial classifications. They debated whether American policies were too extreme. The invasion of America was never only about bombs or ships, it was ideological, a dark reflection between two nations, one exporting hate through law, the other forced to confront its own contradictions. So, could Nazi Germany have invaded the United States? No. The Atlantic was too wide, the logistics too vast, the plan too flawed. But the threat was real. It burned offshore. It crept onto beaches. It whispered through propaganda and fear. And in that sense, America was already part of the battlefield. Not conquered by soldiers, but tested by panic, division, and uncertainty. The Atlantic fortress held. But it reminds us of something crucial. Even the strongest nations aren't defeated only by armies. Sometimes they're challenged by ideas, fear, and the stories they tell themselves.